Flying Constable Jack Cones was painted by mural artist Tim O'Connor. The 16 by 60-foot tribute, Action Council 6 mural, was dedicated on January 27, 1996.
First one. We're now currently painting our 8th mural.
8th mural.
Welcome everyone here today as we come together to celebrate a mural milestone, our 10th mural.
Our 14th mural dedication.
"29 Palms, California. To the south, majestic Joshua Tree National Park, visited by over 1 million people a year. To the west, the newly flourishing town of Yucca Valley. To the north, MAGTF, the Marine Air Ground Task Force Training Command, largest military training area in the world. And east, the vast pathway into California's geography of hope, the Great Mojave, much as it was when the first Europeans began arriving 300 years ago, and when Native Americans called these vistas home for 20,000 years before that. They all came to this place, this point on the map, because of this. Long before Europeans laid eyes on this, the Serranos, the Coahuillas, and the Chimhuevis gave it the name it still bears today, Mara, meaning, according to a Chimhuevi elder, alkali. Jane Smith tells us what it was like to grow up at the oasis.
It was wonderful. We could do anything we wanted to do. No TV. We had no TVs. We did have a theater in town, which we don't have now, a walk-in theater, but it was a great place to grow up. I have 2 older sisters. We're very close in age, and we had more fun playing in the oasis, having projects. My dad loved to go up to the park. It was the monument then. He loved the old mines and the checking out old Indian sites and things like that. We had a wonderful childhood growing up here. I loved it. It's home. The beauty of our surroundings, I think, is unmatched. It's so spectacular. It's different. You go to other places and you see beauty, but we've got colors that change with the seasons, during the day, with the clouds. I think the colors in the desert are the beautiful part of it. And we've got a wonderful community, a small community. That's another part of my love.
But even as residents today were proud of the parade of human history that had come to this oasis, there was now a recognized malaise, a sense of loss. Gut instinct told them that the solution was close at hand.
There was nothing else that would work. We have no interstate highway, no railroad, no 29 Palms International Airport. There's nobody out here except us.
It's exactly what we don't have. That's what we have to offer. We don't have the layers and layers of complicated life.
And so the community lays the footings and foundation.
Early 1994, a merchants committee formed to see how we could help our community. We had lost our pride. Economically, we were hurting. And one of our members, an artist by the name of Tim Terrell, said sometimes murals bring pride back to a community. I had just read an article in Smithsonian Magazine about a little town, Chemainus, British Columbia, that had had similar circumstances, painted murals, and it did wonders for them.
The hardest sell on the mural program was that it would work, that it would be all that we had said it would be, which was bringing tourists, bringing a sense of pride, letting people know about their past, about the past of the community that they live in. The naysayers were saying that what's a mural, what's a painting on the wall going to do for this community? And we said, give it time, and you will see.
But I know that my kids, who many of whom grew up here and went to high school here, are now living in other places, and they love to talk about 29 Palms as a place where they grew up, the place that has murals, the place that has a public art program.
One of the unique characteristics of 29 Palms is that we're at the end of the line. As you go east of 29 Palms, there's a sign that says next service is 100 miles. And that truly is the case. There is 100 miles of desert between us and the next gas station or the next drinking fountain. And so we are at the end of the line in terms of goods and services. So we had to take care of ourselves, and we had to take care of each other. And that is what developed the community spirit that has been in this town for all of my life and remains today a very crucial factor in what we have done here with the murals in terms of bringing back our history and helping the modern day residents appreciate and be proud of that history.
The magic that ignited this project and that must continue is that we must never forget why we're doing this. And it isn't about money, and it isn't about recognition, and it isn't about fame. It's about pride, it's about spirit, and it's about the essence, that pioneer essence that continues in people today as it did from the very beginning.
Why did I choose it to come back here? Well, I found the people were as big as the desert. A lot of people, my kind of people, I like to say, that felt the same way that I did about their country and about the Marine Corps, and supported us quite well, complete support. Well, my hat's off to those pioneers. It's hard enough in this climate here, environment, to survive even today. But think about before they had all of the amenities that we are enjoying today here on the desert. They had to have some sort of steel in them to be able to survive, much less do the things that they did creative for things that we are now enjoying that they were able to do for us. Their character is very similar, I think, to what it takes to be a Marine.
They came here literally to die. They had been given up on elsewhere. And they came to 29 Palms and they got health. They got a new life. They got a new lease on life. And they lived to be, well, I've been here since 1949, and I got to know those people. And I got to know their children. And I went to school with their children. And that's a miracle.
Mural artist Chuck Kaplinger finds artistic solace in the light of the desert's ethereal magic hours. Here, as well as anywhere, he sees art as the link between people, place, and history.
Art is part of all of us. Art is expressing who we are, where we've been, and where we're going.
She left 29 broken hearts, broken in 29 parts. Now there are 29 fellas complaining to their moms about the lady from 29 Palms. She got 29 Cadillacs, 29 sables from Saks. They came from 29 fellas who never had their arms around the lady from 29 Palms. She's a yip, yip, yippee-eye dolly, a new kind of gal of the West. And yip, yip, yippee, by golly, whatever she does the best. She got 29 diamond rings, got 'em without any strings. She is a dynamite dreamboat, a load of atom bombs, the lady from 29 Palms. She left 29 broken hearts, broken in 29 parts. Now there are 29 fellas with 29 qualms about the lady from 29 Palms.
But after a foundation is established with people, a place, and a history, it's time to start building.
Hey, these are the hardcore bunch right here. These are the people who believed in it from the very beginning. These are the ones who started it all. These are the pioneers of 29 Palms who are carrying on in the pioneer tradition. Give us a wave. There they are. A really nice group of people with big plans for their little town.
We set as a philosophy wanting to retell our history and our ecological foundation here, because we're in the desert, and the desert is a very fragile environment. So it's a challenging place to live and a challenging place to be. So we wanted people to know more about that. So using that theme, then we are telling the history of our town and the history of the desert in general.
And this first one, this was the first mural, right?
This was the first one. This was about Bill and Frances Key, and this the topic was selected by our first artist, who was Dan Sawatsky from Chemainus, British Columbia. He came to 29 Palms to do some research, and after a couple of days, he shared this story with us, and we thought it was a perfect beginning. And then he went on to do this mural, which was an instant success.
It's no accident that Bill Keyes was the subject of the first mural commissioned by Action Council 29. Visiting artist Dan Sawatsky knew that this one man embodied more local history than anyone else. Moving to the Mojave in the early 1900s, Keyes by necessity became an accomplished stonemason, carpenter, blacksmith, miner, assayer, cattleman, farmer, mechanic, and animal doctor. He seemed to have no limits to his energy, even though he worked many times with only his bare hands, simple tools, or with a block and tackle. He steadily plugged along, and although his methods were sometimes slow, he usually accomplished whatever he set out to do, primarily due to his tenacious determination to see the job through. Historian and writer Pat Remington believes teamwork and community-mindedness are continuous themes in 29 Palms history.
I think because of the desert environment, and it's rather harsh, it wasn't a place where you would fight particularly. I mean, there was always arguments over water rights, but when the white men came in, they were cowboys who of course needed water for their cattle and for themselves, obviously. When the gold miners came in, they needed not only water for themselves, but also to process their gold ore. And because water sources were very limited, you would die in a very short time without it. So there weren't too many fights over water rights. People did share. When the homesteaders came in, it was the same thing. The Oasis of Mara was the spot where they would come to get water, and it was sort of the meeting place. That's what they would meet cowboys, they would meet the prospectors, and who of course would meet the homesteaders. And it wasn't until the homesteaders had maybe dug a well on their own property that the oasis lost a little bit of its significance.
I've always been impressed as I look at the history of the area that the people since the early settlers that came here after World War I, they have always pulled together. When it came time to build the first schoolhouse, the local people went down to San Bernardino to talk to the people there to build them a schoolhouse. They wouldn't do it, so the people came back and built their own schoolhouse. You fast forward to the 70s, it came time to build a college. They went to the people in Sacramento that were responsible for building colleges. They couldn't do it, so this community built its own college. That they've always pulled together to do community projects together.
They were city people for the most part, and they weren't used to no roads, no electricity, no running water, and so on. They very much helped each other, and I think even now, though the population has much increased and times have changed, I still think that 29 Palms still retains that kind of friendly and helpful to your neighbors attitude.
Probably the most difficult job then and now is keeping the community hyped, for want of a better word, keeping the enthusiasm going. Also finding enough people who have time to give to the cause, if you will. Well, as a local, how do you feel about all this?
Fantastic. It's just the whole town is behind it. It's something that we didn't know we could do.
Yeah.
It is. It's just too good to be
true. Now, what do you mean that we didn't know we could do?
Well, we didn't know the town would all come together like this, and it is. The whole town is behind it.
Now we're in trouble. JP had a speaking part, which means we have to pay her.
But teamwork, to be effective, must be harnessed toward an objective.
The initial planning involved an insistence from the very beginning on quality. Quality of the artwork, its consistency of the theme, something that could be maintained over time, a relationship to our heritage, in other words, a global aspect of appreciation that each of these murals had to make sense as part of a larger whole. And as a result, we did that. And throughout the entire life of the project, increasingly now as we get into three-dimensional work as we start to talk about local neighborhood parks, everything that grew out of the initial idea, which was to put up some murals, grew from this commitment, unviolated to date, on quality.
We basically have a development committee in our community that's called the Action Council for 29 Palms. It's a nonprofit company, corporation, if you will, not a public political entity, but a private group. And the process starts, frankly, by a philosophy more than the elements. The elements come from the philosophy. And the philosophy being that it is our goal, our objective, to surpass people's expectation at every level. Because that way the project will end up being special. And when it's finally completed and when the people enjoy it for the future years, it wants to speak in such a way that it surpassed their expectation and they went away with a feeling of wow.
One of the main criteria for that is to keep wow projects going, and that wow is something that we inherited from Carl Schutz of Semanas, British Columbia, and he always maintained that if you're going to do this, you need to be successful with this program, you need to have a wow factor.
In our community, we were focusing on historical issues and ecological issues in our community that we wanted to convey. And then we would ask them to create what we call a maquette. A maquette is an artist's rendering of the project, the mural that we're going to create. And it would simply be a painting, a drawing, if you will, on possibly, this would be a small element of one that you would see here. Frequently they would be longer in nature than this, but this was actually one of a triplicate, 3 different pieces creating the wall. But sometimes they're done just in long form. And then when the maquette was ready for presentation, going into the background of that, we would be having historical investigation, photographs collected from the community, and then the piece would be created and it would be presented to the Action Council. Now this is where it really gets very critical, because we have a very specific standard that the artist would have to match, and the standard would be when the artist unveiled the maquette for the Action Council, if the members of the council that were there in unison or near unison would take a look at it and go, wow, boy, that is something we would love to have in our community, we're ready to move ahead. If the response seems to be, well, that's pretty nice, it's pretty good, maybe with some changes we could kind of, probably will never fly.
There have been maquettes that have come out that just didn't quite do it, or I like to use the term get it. And it's very important, and the Action Council has done a phenomenal job at not settling for less than excellence.
We had a wall available to us that just was so well located, and we wanted to have a powerful mural on that wall. We want them all to be good, of course, but some walls are better suited for a special message. And so we had a wall that was like that. It was a large wall. This wall was over 100 feet long and over 30 feet high at one end. And it wasn't just a square wall. It had some other, the roof line was dropping as it went along the way. So some special characteristics of that wall to deal with. And we had a theme that we liked, and we had a muralist that we liked, and we asked the muralist to create the maquette for us. And when we got the maquette, it was not a wow. It fell short of what we felt that was commensurate with the wall. And also, the artist had some concerns about the size of the wall. This was an elderly person, and physically he felt maybe it would be a little overwhelming for him. So we could see problems looming in the future, and we decided mutually that this was not the right time for that mural that we had planned. About at the same time, we had another project that we liked, that was a growing interest to us, which was called the Desert Storm Parade, which was an event that happened in 29 Palms to welcome our troops back from the Desert Storm operation. We have a military, the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center is our neighbor to the north here, and we wanted to honor our returning troops. So we had this big parade. It was a marvelous day, and it was the whole community turned out, and it was truly a blessing. We wanted to capture that on our wall, and we felt that this wall was perfect for that. So, but we didn't know how to encapsulate that issue because it was many elements. It was troops returning on buses. It was a parade. It was military hardware. It was flags, and it was the yellow ribbon welcome home project that we had, which was remarkable. And along the way, an artist became acquainted with us. Actually, he just happened to be passing through 29 Palms, and he saw the murals, and he thought, "Gee, I've painted murals, and how could I become involved here?" And we explained the process where we asked them to send us a dozen or so slides of their previous work, and we sort of put it in the bundle with all the other folks. But this particular muralist was unique because he had an experience with NASA and flying and the space program, and we thought, boy, the two of these things go together pretty well. So we ultimately invited him to do a maquette for us, and it was a big wow.
Well, just discussing it, the hair kind of goes out on the back of my neck because I was here when the 29 Palms forces came back and had their victory parade down Adroby Road. And my heart is starting to beat now thinking about the colors in front of the contingency, and particularly the 7th Marine Regiment, just is one of the great things. See, I came back from a war that they didn't have a victory parade. I came back from Vietnam. I came back from Korea. Not popular wars at all. So this made me feel good, not for just these lads that I saw with the flags waving, and really they were waving because the wind was so bad that the poor color guards had a hard time holding on to them, but nevertheless they were doing the job. I just became, I don't know, fulfilled, I should say, from my missions that I had coming back from Korea and from Vietnam, to now then to see what it was like to have the crowd adulation that was present at that parade. And then of course Chuck really captured that spirit, I think, on the mural, and I was there for the dedication of that, and I again felt that same surge of pride in our Corps, in our country.
Can't help but wonder why you're so far away. There, you had to take a stand in someone else's land. Life can be so strange. I wish we never had to choose to be the win or lose. We could find a way. We could find a way. But I won't turn my back again. Turn my back on around the bend. So hurry home till then. Till then. Stand tall, stand tall.
We're going to walk right over here, but let's just kind of stand out.
Good, good.
Okay, here we go. Okay, another mural, another part of the community that is very important to 29 Palms history, which is the United States Marine Corps, based here since, I guess, the 1940s in large numbers.
Right, this is the world's largest Marine Corps base. It's called the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center, And this mural pays tribute to the veterans of Desert Storm. And we had a huge parade, went right down Adobe Road, and we wanted to commemorate that parade, and so we did that with this mural. It's 100 feet long, 25 feet high on the far end down here. It was done by Chuck Kaplinger, who has moved to 29 Palms since he did this mural. And it's basically a collage of photographs from the parade day itself.
So what do? You get the artist here and you get them hooked into 29 Palms and they ended up moving here to live?
Well, they find it such a beautiful place to be and the climate's so wonderful and it's just a great place to enjoy, and so after they spend a few weeks painting, they obviously want to live here, so sometimes they do.
Well, I got to tell you, as a former Marine, this does something. This is very dramatic here.
Well, what was particularly dramatic also was our dedication that night. We had 3 generals here. We had the full Marine Corps band, big fireworks demonstration, and there wasn't a dry eye in the audience. Yeah. About 500 people for the dedication that night.
Teamwork and objective are not the only building elements for a strong outdoor art program. There needs to be an awareness to dream.
It was a leap of faith. We had a direction, and we weren't going to be stopped. And we didn't listen to the naysayers. We went straight forward with our dream.
The desert is a good place to dream.
More importantly, it's a good place to realize dreams. I think, to me, that's the key and the foundation. That's the key about what makes all of us able to live through the summers and live through the harshness and live with the lack. The children that live in this community could get that. That's what they have. They don't have malls. They don't have video arcades. They don't have all the trappings, but they can realize their dreams. They can actually create and invent.
Foundation and building elements in place. The community is ready for creation. Aesthetic Night Shift. Artist Chuck Kaplinger at work. Public art, outdoor art, is not limited to 2 dimensions. With sculpture, the 2-dimensional wall is exchanged for 3-dimensional space. With motion sculpture, it enters the 4th dimension of time.
My work is typically large-scale kinetic work, and it's about balance, and certainly there are issues of balance here when we deal with these climbers. Specifically, as I thought, this balance between their mental and their physical agility that allowed them to participate in this activity. And so with gusto at that point, I chose to go ahead and work on the climbing project.
Artist Tim O'Connor at work, from beginning to end.
I think the power of Tim O'Connor's murals is that they have an incredible life to them. They have that. I'm not inspired by Jack Combs. I really don't even know the story terribly well, but that mural lights my heart up whenever I see it. It's just, there's something about that face. There's an essence that's captured, and that's absolutely crucial, no matter what the project is.
I really like Dan Sawatsky's first mural of Keys, and that one to me is the essence of what a good mural should be. Dan was a tremendous influence on me. When he came here, we became pals immediately. He came down and hung around in my shop, and we checked each other's work and became very good friends. I had never done a mural before, and I watched him do his, and he encouraged me all by himself to do a mural. And he made me believe that I could do it, so I went out and tried it, and I did it.
This particular wall that Richard Wyatt, our artist, had to work with is pretty rough in texture, probably rougher than a lot of the other ones, since this is a mortared wall and most of the rest of them are all cement block. However, Richard, when he laid this out, did this in an altogether different format than the way 90% of our murals are done. And Richard is from the old school. He has used the same method that Michelangelo used in the Sistine Chapel. And this whole picture was laid out on pieces of paper that are approximately 3 feet long and 20 inches wide in individual panels. He did the basic outline on these panels and then taped them onto the wall. And after that was done, he went along the lines with a pin and made holes along these lines. And after that was done, we took a small bag with chamois bag with blue powder in it and took this bag and went along the whole lines following all of these pinholes. Tremendously tedious work. And he could only do this in parcels at a time. He could not do it at the whole thing at once. So it took him approximately 2.5 weeks just to get the outline of the picture that he wanted to see on this wall. Although you don't see this from a distance, this wall surface is probably one of the most unique of the ones that we have. It is kind of a stippled type of finish and is very, very rough. But there again, you don't see this from a distance. And a lot of people are under the impression that they use a 4 or 5 inch brush in order to paint this surface. In fact, the opposite is true. They use a very small inch and a half wide brush. Richard added an unusual detail to this particular mural, and it has to do with the mountain line that goes along here. And he did this on his own without asking us or mentioning it to us, that if you stand at a certain location out there away from the mural, you will notice that at this point right up here where the wall and the painting ends, that it will match the mountain line for real.
The Campbell House has a great love story. It was built by some people by the name of Bill and Elizabeth Campbell. Elizabeth Crozier, who married Bill Campbell in 1921, had come from a very, very wealthy family in Pennsylvania. But because she had decided to marry a military man, the family disowned her, but she didn't care because she truly loved this man. So she gave up all of her riches and fame and decided that she had to move to the desert because of Bill Campbell's poor health. He had received mustard gas damage from World War I.
The canvas for a muralist is often in need of exacting preparation. Ray Kinsman deals with pragmatics before the artist begins.
This mural, done by artist Dan Sawatsky and aided by his lovely wife Janice from Chemainus, British Columbia, was our 10th mural. Probably one of the toughest walls we've ever had to get prepared and get ready for, at least the ones that I've been involved with. My good friend Bucky, Jerry Buckland, and I spent about a week getting this wall ready. It had a tremendous amount of cracks in it. A lot of the plaster was coming off of it. We put about 10 tubes of silicone sealer in the cracks up and down all throughout this wall, about 3 coats of undercoat before Dan was able to start on it. The wall you see before us is going to be the recipient of Action Council's 16th and newest mural. As you can see, it's a bare wall and has just been sandblasted. And it was sandblasted because of a request from the artist. Most of the walls that we've used have been just on a cement block wall with the strike lines showing, and it didn't make any difference. In this particular case, the artist has requested a smooth finish. The medium he works with is trompe-l'oeil, a French word having to do with illusionism. So this is a new endeavor as far as the type of mural that's going to be painted on the wall, and we're looking at it to be a wow.
Artists and how they work. But what about that intangible quality called vision?
There are many very important steps when you're taking a look at the full aspect of bringing this wall to fruition. But probably the most crucial would be matching up the artist with the theme and with the wall.
And we work a little bit differently than other communities which we have heard about, where people send out invitations for people to present prospective projects to meet with that element. But we would actually select just one.
Our entire journey has been about vision. When artist, medium, and vision have had their expression, then it is time to behold.
One thing that we have done in 29 Palms, which I think is a key to our success, I know it's made us popular with mural artists, is that we have encouraged the community to be interested in the development of the work. From the very first sketch on through the preparation of the wall to the work once the artist gets on site, the scaffolding and all of that. We encourage people, kids, young, old, to come and watch, bring their lunch, make this a part of their day to watch the creation of this work. And one thing we've done, I think, better than most, is cap off the entire project with a dedication ceremony. The town comes out.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 6th world-class mural in the Outdoor Art Gallery called the City of 29.
Are the workshops ready? Go for it, guys.
How I wish Mom and Dad were here today to see this celebration. They would be so pleased, not only with the mural, but also with the giving spirit that is being carried on today by people in this community. What do you like about this place? As Judy then said, it's the people. So keep the spirit. Wire the house for electricity, just in case. Thank you very much.
Frank told me, no matter what you do in life, make sure you provide a service to others. It is in your service to others and to mankind that you will define the value in your own life. Helen and Frank Bagley now belong to history. And as you gaze upon their faces in the mural, I hope you will remember many of the qualities they had. One of the things that we don't talk too much about in the 1990s is integrity. But Helen and Frank Bagley personified integrity, and they had perseverance.
Mary Jane Bingy sees murals like the Bagley mural as a message for future generations.
I would hope that they would accept the challenge. The pioneers that we are portraying, they built the roads, they built the houses. They started with barren land. They started with nothing. And look what they did.
As essential as creation itself are caretaking and stewardship.
Your claim to fame is what?
I'm the dirty man, the grounds man.
You keep the grounds
That's right.
clean in front of all of these things.
Yes, sir.
I guess that's very, very important, isn't it?
Well, the murals are beautiful, and trash, weeds, they detract from it.
Yeah.
So we do our best to keep them clean.
So what, you just bring a rake and rake it and weed it and clean it? And
rake it and weed it and clean it. That's it.
Well, you've done a wonderful job of it.
Celebration and stewardship.
Beth, come over here a minute.
They're the fruit of inspiration.
What's the deal on the kids here today?
Well, they're mural babies.
Mural babies.
Mural babies at 29 Palms. They saw the birth of the first mural, and they've been to every mural unveiling, and they've even gotten to paint a few brush strokes on 3 of the murals.
Really? You actually
Stroke.
put a stroke up there on there? Is it pretty much fun?
Yes.
So really, it's a big deal when these things are dedicated.
Oh, absolutely. Sarah's already told me she wants to be an artist when she grows up, and she wants to paint a mural in 29 Palms.
Ah, well, there's probably going to be room for one if she hurries up.
close my eyes, only for a moment, and the moment's gone. All my dreams pass before my eyes, a curiosity. Dust in the wind, all we are is dust in the wind. Same old song, just a drop of water in an endless sea. All we do crumbles to the ground, though we refuse to see. Dust in the wind, all we are is dust in the wind. All we are is dust in the wind. Dust in the wind. Everything is dust in the wind. Everything is dust in the wind. Now don't hang on, nothing lasts forever except the earth and sky. It slips away, and all your money wants another minute by. Dust in the wind, all we are is dust in the. All we are is dust in the wind. Dust in the. Everything is dust in the wind. Everything is dust in the
If all we are is dust in the wind, then let us be eloquent dust. Let us look to our history for the stuff of dreams and lift up our eyes to a vision that inspires.